Hey, Pascal, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Woodlefoot. What's good, YouTube family? I'm back with a video. This video, I found, it was kind of interesting. It made me think about, you know, the black dynamic, why the black families are broken, and why it was so important back in the day, like in the 50s and 60s, why it was so important for the black man not to be in the family, not to be in the household, and for women to gain all the benefits that she can attain just because the man is not in the house. So or she couldn't get the benefits unless the man was not in the house. Now that affects a lot of what takes place today in this generation. There's a lot of broken families, a lot of misguided youth, a lot of people who just having a lot of. I'm telling you, it's all gonna be concluded in this video. It's gonna be covered in this video. While a lot of women today are just not trying to get married, why they just want to have kids out of wedlock, why they just want to have one night stands, why a lot of families don't admire having a functioning mother and father relationship, why a lot of this stuff is taking place today. It was all engineered and all by design. You feel what I'm saying? See, I wasn't personally born in the 60s or born in the 50s or born back in that time, so I wouldn't know that that took place. You feel me? So it's informative, and this video is very educational to inform those who was born in the 90s or like the late 80s, like myself. I was born in 91, to inform us on how things actually took place back in the days, to let us know why it's like this today. So that out of the way, past cool YouTube family. Y'all check this out. Y'all gonna watch it with me, but I'm gonna skip to that part. So that out of the way, past cool. It's your boy Woodle for signing out. Peace. Past cool. What's good, YouTube? This is the video I want y'all to watch with me. It's about the government and the earlier days when families were broken up by design. This video right here is an informative video for educational purposes. I'm going to be stopping this video from time to time, but I'm gonna really try not to, because I want to soak up as much information that this video has to offer. So with that being said, that out of the way, past cool. Without further ado, let's get into this video.
For their children to get meat and bread. There are so many dehumanizing elements in the welfare system that we are concerned about removing. Ultimately, we are concerned about a guaranteed annual income. And the other thing I think it is very necessary to say is that everybody's on welfare in this country. And when it comes to black people and poor people, we just call it something else. And it's for white people and rich, we call it subsidies.
It's no secret, fatherless households are more common in the black community. A survey from the American Consensus Institution revealed that 67% of black children under 18 in the U.S. live in homes without fathers. This is a stark contrast to white children, as only 24% of them live in fatherless homes. But it wasn't always like that. The black families survived generations of open racism, widespread poverty, and slavery. They lived through segregation and violence, and strong family bonds used to be the norm.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American family.
It's the legacy of the welfare state.
Between 1890 and 1950, the marriage rate was much higher among black women than white women. A fraction of black children lived in homes without their fathers. But everything changed with the expansion of the welfare state. It divided the household and created a dependency on welfare. This kind of reminds me of what President Reagan said.
I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
So, what happened? What's the mechanism? Here is a detailed look at how the welfare state played a role in the dissolving of the family structure over the years. People say that the breakdown of traditional family units, family structures, is a byproduct of black poverty, not just because there is no man to support the family financially, but also because women tend to earn less than men on average. Of course, the connection between the two is there, but it goes deeper than that. Welfare was a mean little business. It was designed to get people by in a pinch. Public assistance programs, like welfare entitlements, have been a part of American culture since the 1940s. Unfortunately, like in many other aspects of government institutions, black Americans were left out. In time, black people could also get financial support, but it wasn't easy. Mothers who applied for checks had to let social workers inspect their homes to see if their conditions were suitable for welfare. These workers also had to make sure no man was living in the house. But even if they qualified for support, the amount they received was meager and not enough to build a stable life. In the early 1960s, welfare was not yet common, even in the most impoverished black communities. In the decade that followed, the number of black people on welfare went up by 169%. They further increased by 30% from 1970 to 1975. In 1972, New York City, almost 1 out of every 6 residents was on welfare. A major portion of these households were black. Although black people were only around a tenth of all Americans, they made up almost 50% of all welfare recipients by the late 70s. A recent UNICEF report showed that many children under 18 in America struggle financially, and African American children are nearly 4 times more likely to be in poverty than white children. Though the number of families receiving cash assistance has decreased since 1996, child poverty rates for black children in the US remain high. This outcome is not by accident. I studied the evolution of social welfare policies in the US from the New Deal to the 1996 reforms.
And don't this make you think, like, you see how today there's more people, women, willing to just go it alone? It stems from this. You know, there's a big problem with families not having a father in the household, as well as women, specifically black women, not having a man in the house, or having the mindset that, oh, I'm a strong, independent black woman. That just makes me think, like, why is it that only strong black women got to be independent? Why is it no strong Latino women independent? You feel me? Like, why do the black woman always got to be left to fend for herself, you know? And it's like, it's crazy because they even said it, that they will offer you, that the mother would get more benefits if the father wasn't in the house. Now, that says a lot about how things are today. Why there's a bunch of broken families where there's only a mother raising the whole household, or a father raising the whole household, or a grandmother raising the whole household, or auntie, or a brother or a sister. You know what I'm saying? Because of this. And it target black folks. You feel what I'm saying? It targeted our people. So for that to be said blatantly out their own mouth, to say that they would get more benefits if the man wasn't in the house, that comes to show why there's so many dysfunction in families today. You know, women, it's sad, bro. And it wasn't by accident, like they said. It was all designed. It was all engineered. It's all conditioning. And through the conditioning, we have what we have today. A lot of families that don't even have the whole two-parent dynamic, you feel what I'm saying? Or have the same mindset to where, oh, let's get married, because, you know, the father of the bride has to pay for the wedding. But if the father's not in the household, how is the man? There's a lot of reasons why, there's a lot of problems that's happening why women, you know, about why men not being in the household. The man not being able to raise the daughter properly. The man not being able to check the son to put him in his place or let him know how to be a man. The man not being able to tell his daughter about how a man should court her and treat her and things like that, you know. Then there's women being subjected to domestic violence because of, you know, not having a father figure there. So there's a lot of things that are stemming from the fathers not being in the household. And this was one of the things that was organized and engineered to provide that narrative, which is having the father not being in the household, or having broken homes, or being like, oh, okay, the whole narrative of, oh, men ain't this, men ain't that. And in reality, it was designed for us not to be there to help our women. So that's a far cry from the truth to say that, oh, when a man is not able to make ends meet, he's a deadbeat. But when a woman is having a hard time, she's just having it hard. You see, we have to stop this. We have to stop this double standard and start, you know, being more rational and thinking about the things more logically. You know what I'm saying? Because this is all engineered, y'all.
Found that these policies have been discriminatory from the start, and a lot of people can confess to that. This led many black families to fall into cultural and economic ruin. In a short period, healthy black...
And another thing, this was only... you see what I'm saying? There was so many things that was aimed toward us to keep us down. But here's my question. Why are the government so afraid of having the black families thrive? Why is black families thriving a threat to the government? Why? Why black families thriving a threat? But every other family of every other nationality or every other race can thrive. But us as black folks or melanated folks, we can't thrive. What's the problem? There's something that it's a threat that we cause. You know, there's a threat that we rise, you feel me? That we may rise and become organized or unified. I don't think they want us to be organized or unified. They want us to just be divided so they can conquer us and turn us against each other. I'm gonna let it rock from here, y'all.
People started relying on government assistance to achieve some level of normalcy. But within the city slums, that normalcy was impossible to get. Black children barely knew their fathers, and most were raised by unemployed and unmarried mothers stuck in a cycle of poverty and modest paychecks. This marked a significant shift in Black American history. The consequences were severe for the next generation. Let's start with the Social Security Act of 1935. It was introduced during Franklin Roosevelt's administration. It was designed to create the safety net in the country, safeguarding families from losing their income. It was viewed as a significant part of New Deal reform and paved the way for federal protections in the future, such as the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. This policy had two main parts. The first part had social insurance programs that provided financial support to dependents of deceased or incapacitated workers, and Social Security for retired older Americans. The second part comprised means-tested public assistance programs, initially known as Aid to Dependent Children, and later renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children. In 1962, under the Kennedy administration, ideally, it was believed that as the overall quality of life in the country improved, more families could support themselves without needing financial assistance from the ADC program. Eventually, the ADC program would become unnecessary and gradually phase out on its own. But this posed a major problem for Black Americans. Like any other component of the New Deal, the origins of the Social Security Act were deeply rooted in racism. During the 1930s and 1940s, Black people had to deal with widespread racial discrimination in the workplace. They held low-paying jobs, often paid in cash and off the books. This made them ineligible for social insurance programs. The ADC program was an extension of state-run programs that supported widowed mothers, but mostly benefited white widows. The states decided eligibility and need, and since the separate but equal doctrine was in place, Blacks were still excluded from fully participating. Jim Crow laws and the separate but equal doctrine led to a system with different services for whites and Blacks. But, as we all know by now, they were far from equal. States made efforts to cut down ADC enrollment and costs. They proposed residency requirements to prevent Blacks from the South from qualifying for the program. In 1935, there was a hearing on a bill, and the NAACP, an organization that fights for civil rights, expressed their concerns. Southern politicians wanted to exclude agricultural and domestic workers from the bill. This meant that many Black workers couldn't get the support they needed. This exclusion would particularly affect Black sharecroppers and cash tenants, who were already struggling to make ends meet. Even though the NAACP was highly against it, the Social Security Act was approved. That's why 65% of African Americans nationwide were not eligible for benefits, and an even larger percentage of these Black families in the South were excluded from the program. In the 1950s and 60s, things got even worse for Black families. Welfare checks incentivized single-mother households, and there was one rule that ruined it all: the man-in-the-house rule. Black families have long been the victims of income inequality and bad government policies. The irony, of course, is that conservatives pushed Black mothers to break their families to get welfare. Before 1968, many states and administrative agencies created and enforced the man-in-the-house.
You see, this is why they can't say, oh, Black people are lazy if one nation, one race of people overcame this. But they don't understand. They wasn't targeted as much as we were targeted. You feel what I'm saying? Like, we're still being targeted to this day. And the thing is that it brings me to the question of why? Why can't we just be left alone? There was a bunch of thriving communities that were thriving, Black-owned businesses, Black-owned communities, thriving. Why destroy it? Mere jealousy, hatred, envy, something. You feel me? So don't kick that garbage about, oh, Black folks need to stop wanting a handout or stop being lazy. They need to stop trying to. They destroyed everything we built, bro, and all the inventions and patents we created. We don't get no credit for it unless you dig it into the archives to find it. And you see what they do with records. When they find something, they destroy it because they don't want people to be able to reference back what they talking about to a document that's actually there in archives or that existed. So they burn it to get rid of the record. Sad.
House rule. This rule basically meant that if there is a working or healthy man in the house, the government can't help you. And they would go as far as to send welfare workers to visit the homes without warning to check if a man was present. If they found any evidence whatsoever, families lost their welfare benefits. Over the years, the welfare state started dissolving the family structure, slowly but surely. A man who can't get a decent job and provide a substantial income suddenly believes that his family is better off without him. So, if a man were to lose his job, he literally had to leave the house so his children could get government surplus peanut butter, beans, and cheese. On the
That's
other
crazy.
hand, if either the woman or the man, or both, were irresponsible, they faced no consequences for their actions. And it was the taxpayers who ended up paying for it. These things aren't exactly designed to keep the marriage intact. They are meant to divide people.
see?
The harm done to the children was massive. Many children experienced the hurt from broken families at such a young age. In 1960, just 33% of black American children didn't live with two parents, but by 1988, that rate went up to 61%. In that time, the proportion of black children born to single mothers rose.
So you come, y'all seen it for yourself. They promoted broken homes. They promoted black families to not have the father in the house. They promoted two parents being irresponsible and not having no accountability taken on either parties. They promoted this stuff. You feel what I'm saying? So it's a reason why such things are so catastrophic and so chaotic today. Because of this conditioning. This all happened. This is all engineering. Like the older generation that came in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, if they know this, then they should do way more than sitting up here pointing their nose or judging the generation of today, because they need help. They really need us. Like, if I knew this, I ain't gonna lie. If I really knew that this was like this, and I was growing up in this time, I would have a way more better understanding or new profound understanding of why the young girls are today or why the young men are today, and I would mold them to let them know like it wasn't always like this, and I would have a more considerate approach. You feel me? To how I mentor or how I role model these people. You feel what I'm saying? These younger generations, because they need it. If we leave them to just go about their business the way they're going about it now, they're going to self-destruct. Okay? We have to help them. My generation, the 90s, back all the way down to the 40s, the baby boomers, we got to help them, y'all. We got to stand up for the younger generation and save them, because it was all engineered. It wasn't their fault. Just like it wasn't some of the other generation's fault that came before the generation today. Just like my generation, it wasn't our fault, but we're going to have to pay, respect and homage to, the acknowledgement of things and start doing better, because we have to do better.
From 23% to more than 60%. This is exactly why we can't judge government policies based on their ideals, but based on their results. And these results, well, left a ton of households fatherless. I mean, think about it. What would the result have been if this welfare policy had required the opposite of that both parents live in the same home and care for their children to receive government assistance? The welfare state did what slavery couldn't do. It broke families apart.
Exactly.
And broken families fuel poverty. The structure of the family can influence the choices children make. For example, boys raised without their fathers are more likely to drop out of school, get violence, use drugs, or go to jail. Girls are more likely to have a child out of wedlock or engage in sexual activities at a very early age. These children are also more prone to mental health problems, which can affect them as adults. A psychology test detailed in Roy Baumeister and John Tierney's book, Willpower, showed that children from fatherless households were more likely to settle for a small prize straight away. In contrast, children with fathers present were more willing to wait for a bigger prize. Experts from the Northwestern Institute for Policy Research challenged that these effects are primarily due to dangerous neighborhoods or poor schools. They found that the direct effect of family structure itself played a more significant role. As marriage rates declined among the poor and working class in the U.S., the institution of marriage has remained strong among the wealthier population, with similar rates to those from 50 years ago. At the same time, the decrease in marriage among the working class has led to a significant rise in out-of-wedlock births, often to couples who are living together without being married. This happens because people view marriage as an ideal situation, but feel it is unachievable, yet they still want to have children. In the mid-1980s, the rates of fatherless households dramatically increased. Today, just 44% of black children live with their fathers. Also, a lot more black children are born outside of marriage. The rates of such cases went up from 24.5% in 1964 to 70.7% by 1994, which remains at a similar level today.
Boy.
Many people blame the expansion of welfare programs for the breakdown of black families. Since 1935, people have had access to cash welfare. But this welfare was quite modest and not enough to cover any of the living expenses. With Johnson's Great Society, which began in 1964, welfare benefits became much more generous and controlled. When I mean controlled, I mean crazy. The man in the house rule discouraged marriage because it provided welfare assistance to mothers if no man was living in the house. If a mother married an employed man, even one earning the minimum wage, it jeopardized her financial support. These benefits were huge. The Great Society programs offered a way out for low-income black families.
And that just comes back to what I was thinking where I was like, a lot of marriages don't happen because of the broken home. A lot of marriages aren't happening because it's not encouraged. It's actually frowned upon. Now, knowing what they went through, bro, who would want to get married? You know? But I'm saying we have to break that curse. We have to change that. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm gonna see if I can find something that's speaking about. I'm gonna make a video myself. I'm gonna see if I can do a video or find a video that's speaking about black families together, the percentile of black marriages that are up. Just bringing the whole thing of black marriages full circle from, okay, we finding out that they're not popular, they're not encouraged, but what about the people who are married and who are encouraging others? We want to bring it full circle. So yeah.
This could be why, in 1964, only 7% of American children were born out of wedlock, compared to the current rate of 40%. So basically, the government urged mothers to keep fathers out of the home and paid them well for doing so. Shifts in the labor market and deindustrialization greatly impacted job opportunities, especially for low-skilled workers. It hurt both whites and black people, but black communities were the most affected. Here's an example. Imagine a city like Detroit, where the manufacturing industry was the top employer, and many black men held manufacturing jobs. Here, in the 1970s, 56% of black men were in the manufacturing industry, but by 2000, it dropped to 26%. Over the years, technological advancements and economic shifts created a demand for skilled workers in other sectors, like healthcare or technology. These new jobs required a higher level of education and specialized skills. The problem was the lower level of education among black men on average. As jobs increasingly required education beyond high school, black men faced many challenges. This made it harder for them to adapt to the changing job market and find new employment in other industries. White men were better equipped to handle the changing job market. They had higher education and a greater chance of securing well-paid jobs in emerging industries. Then there was the 90s gear change. In the late 1990s, efforts to reform the AFDC program took on more subtle forms of racism. Critics claimed that the program encouraged out-of-wedlock births, irresponsible fatherhood, and dependency across generations. During this time, there was a lot of public concern about the cost of welfare programs. Some people believed that the programs contributed to rising taxes and national debt. It tapped into public fears and created a seriously negative perception of people who received welfare. There were a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes about those who lived in poverty. So, the reform bill that was eventually passed replaced the AFDC with TANF, Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. The new bill imposed stricter work requirements, expecting single mothers to find work within 2 years of receiving benefits. There was also a 5-year limit on receiving benefits. To promote traditional family values, teenage mothers didn't receive benefits. But that was not all. If a father were to fall behind on child support payments, they could face threats of imprisonment. The bill restricted the use of federally funded TANF for certain groups of immigrants. There were also eligibility limitations on Medicaid, food stamps, and supplementary Social Security income, SSI. These measures were just too harsh. They made it difficult for families in need to get proper financial support. Instead of addressing the root of poverty and creating new employment opportunities, it just punished those who
I ain't going front. That's why people say, yo, this system is not designed for us, bro. It's obviously not designed for us. It's actually designed against us. So, I don't see how the government is helping. If anything, they do more harm than help. I ain't even know none of this stuff, y'all. I'm my mind over here blown. Like,
who already struggled financially. Well, today, modern problems require new solutions. According to Forbes, the economic status of black Americans is still far behind compared to white people in terms of stock ownership, net worth, income, home ownership, and other metrics. In the United States, black workers earn about 30% less than white workers. Almost 50% of black workers are working in retail, food services, healthcare, and accommodation, and a huge chunk of these workers are doing lower paying services. Imagine getting paid more than 40% less than white men for doing the exact same job. If you are a black woman in the US, this is more likely to happen. In 2020, black women earned around 58% of what white men earned on average. Similar to Latinas and Native women, black women face a much more significant pay gap compared to all women. This is because they face both racism and sexism in the workplace. Today, the Social Security program is a backbone for many black families. It protects them through disability, retirement, or death. The program is crucial because African Americans often lack financial resources and have higher disability rates. The program is meant to help those who earn low income get benefits. Those who heavily rely on Social Security are older black people with lower lifetime earnings and fewer pension benefits. For example, in 2017, 35% of married and 58% of unmarried older black people received 90% or more of their income from Social Security. Despite its importance, black Americans still benefit less overall from the program because of the ongoing pay disparities and shorter life expectancies. These factors result in lower lifetime earnings and, in turn, reduce the total benefits received from Social Security. In 2005, President George W. Bush wanted to make some changes and planned to privatize the program. But the NAACP responded with a nationwide campaign called SOS, Save Our Social Security, and partnered with the Congressional Black to keep the program safe. It worked. Social Security is still an important support system for countless families. Unfortunately, our country has made very few efforts to reduce the disparities in wealth and income between black and white households. Despite laws against pay discrimination, black men earn 83 cents and black women earn 62 cents for every dollar earned by white men. Also, practices like redlining or housing discrimination have made it nearly impossible or much less profitable for black families.
Just in case y'all ain't know, I did a video on this. It's called POV. It's on my channel. It's POV Blacks Living in America. I talked about redlining and things like that. Not not on a broad spectrum, but just like a little snippet of it. I talked about it a little bit.
Families to own homes. These structural barriers create fewer opportunities for black people to accumulate wealth and save for retirement. When the pandemic hit, Social Security became even more critical. Many black adults lost jobs, and many small businesses were forced to close. The coronavirus made it very difficult to keep up with mortgage or rental payments. The thing is,
new arrivals prepared for this fall. Striped graphic shirt on sale. Only $14.62 for one. Trendy.
Today, more black Americans are more likely to enter a church to go to a funeral than to celebrate a wedding. Fatherless homes, declining marriage rate.
That's true. I'm not gonna lie to you. Personally, I've been to more funerals than I have been to weddings. To be honest, I never been to a wedding. I never been to a wedding. I haven't. But I attended more funerals than weddings. I'm gonna be honest, I probably attended at least like 8 or 9 funerals. And that I probably went to one or two weddings. I'm not even gonna lie, but I probably was really young. Probably like at least one. I think at least one. My dad got married to us. Back in the day. I thought, but it was just a ceremony that was bringing them together in union. But I never been to a wedding before in my years of living. But I have been to a gang of funerals though. So this is true.
And high divorce rates are challenging the black community to the core. Imagine as a young child living in poverty with a single mother in a poor and drug-infested neighborhood. Over the years, you would have witnessed how this would impact your chances of success, like finishing high school and getting a good job. Because of this, many black children are raised with little expectations or a sense of hope. Now, some might argue that it takes a village to raise a kid, but in reality, the urban public housing village is drenched in toxic influences like violence, drugs, and bad role models. And in that village, fatherless boys are left alone to figure out what it takes to be a man. So, where do they look? To one another. And in many cases, they turn to gangs and the streets. Girls' lives, too, are deeply damaged in fatherless households. Without a father figure, young girls can experience psychological and emotional challenges. They can have lower self-esteem and struggle to form healthy relationships with men. Teen pregnancy is a common problem. They can also struggle with economic hardships and poor academic performance. For things to change, we need to acknowledge that the absence of black men is damaging countless households. To fill this
Thank
void,
you.
it is essential to
Finally,
reunite
somebody
fathers
said
with their
it.
children, but also to teach the younger generation the value of family structures. But this is something that will take time and a lot of effort. All in all, the US welfare system is a clear reflection of its economic policies and the nation's long history of racism. From the very beginning, the policy excluded black Americans who were already struggling financially. The man in the house rule only made things worse, which greatly impacted black households. The expansion of welfare led to a decrease in fathers' involvement in raising their children, leaving mothers to struggle alone in jobless poverty. This created a new reality for poor blacks, where work became optional, fathers were rare, and dysfunction became common. The lack of family loyalty and work ethic led to a new oppositional racial outlook among young black males who often resorted to crime. Now, years later, the impact of the rule can still be felt. A lot of black children have grown up without a father, and they can easily go astray. The situation is hard for overworked and exhausted single mothers. The more children they had, the harder it was to get a job. I just want to point out the brutal reality that led to such circumstances. The welfare culture discouraged individual responsibility. It pushed people to make hard choices, which damaged their families and put everyone involved in challenging positions. This is a reality that many now have to live with. If you enjoyed this documentary, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel.
I just want to say that channel right here, this Black Culture Unlocked channel, y'all go sub up, man. Go sub up. Go subscribe to their channel. This channel is very, very informative, especially if you're a black man or a black woman or melanated man, melanated woman, and you want to know more about the culture, because they definitely do give some rundowns on some things that we don't know nothing about. So if y'all want to go be in tuned and be informed, go sub to Black Culture Unlocked. They're a good channel to check out. I'm actually subscribed myself. And every time I get a good video that I feel like I want to bring to my people or watch on my channel, I look at these folks on this channel right here, Black Culture Unlocked, because they definitely are saving the culture and teaching a lot of people what they don't teach in school and inside of the history books. So yeah, that being said, that's the channel right there on our screen. Y'all go sub up.
We aren't just telling stories, we're changing lives and waking the culture up. The video on the screen shares why they are banning black history in schools. Click on it now.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the
Alright, y'all, that's the end of the video right there. Without saying too much, because y'all basically seen it, man, this was the end of the video. This video right here really changed the way I think, made me look at things a lot different, on top of already how I looked at things. But y'all go sub up to Black Culture Unlocked. It's your boy Whittlefoot. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel as well. I appreciate the love, appreciate the support, appreciate the views, appreciate the subs, the likes, the comments, all the love. I appreciate it, man. God bless all of y'all hearts, you know, because without y'all, I wouldn't be able to do this. Without y'all, I wouldn't be going up. So thank you, and I appreciate it. You know, we still growing. And let's see if we can get me to 500 subscribers. You feel what I'm saying? Because that's one of my milestones. Once I hit the 5, then I can try to see if I can get 5 more to get to 1,000. Get the thou wow, you feel me? 500, then get the thou wow. You feel what I'm saying? But I gotta grind, and with y'all help, I'll get it done. But I felt like sharing this video on my channel with y'all because I wanted y'all to understand, along with me, to get an idea. Well, I'm just gonna put it like this, black and white. I wanted y'all to see how the government failed us black folks, and how everything was engineered and everything was organized and orchestrated. You feel what I'm saying? So without further ado, I'm gonna end the video right here. That out of the way past cool. It's your boy Whittlefoot signing out. I love y'all, appreciate y'all. Hope y'all have a great week. I'm gonna holler at y'all in a few. Peace.